How's it going, guys? IllumiGnostic back from the brink of death. Not really. COVID sucks. It definitely sucks. In case you haven't had it and you're wondering what it's like, did I say that it sucks? Yeah, it started out basically with like a really bad splitting headache. I could not sleep for a full 48 hours. And then I noticed I didn't have any tastes. And so anyways, it's been about 2 weeks and I'm probably 80% back to normal baseline. So I decided that I would jump on and talk about some stuff because I've been laying in bed at night just thinking about all the crap that, because what do you do when you're sick, right? I'm just laying in bed all the time, flipping through TikTok and whatever the YouTube equivalent is. And I noticed a bunch of stuff. And I hated it. I hated all of it. Trying to stay positive, because we need that. I like to, what's going on, Claire? I like to think that we are at a crossroads and that it's possible for humanity to sort of make all of this ridiculous history. Ridiculous is a very mild way of putting it, but the Dark Ages and the Holocaust and all of these crazy, Stalin and Pol Pot and all the misadventures of human history, that somehow we can step into the light at the end of human history, and that the mushroom that is waiting for us at the end will be the mushroom of Terrence and Timothy and not Oppenheimer. Um, and I really try hard to make sense of the moments that um, that are our bridge between now and then. And it's not easy. It's really not easy. And I I like to think that I can make a contribution and to help catalyze consciousness and to, to have some sort of hand in helping humanity to act sensibly. Um, and it's difficult because you really have to be careful what you say if you want people to continue to listen to you. Um, and it's also very discouraging that, I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but for my entire life, I've always been 3 to 10 years ahead of the herd in general on just about everything. And the consequence of that is that I get laughed at, hated on, is generally discouraged from opening my mouth at all historically. It's never been fun. In fact, it's been so bad at various times in my life, particularly when I was younger, that I actually started to think maybe that I was just wrong about everything, and that I was just a crazy idiot, and that I should just shut up because I just don't know anything apparently. Um, but then I keep, I'm always right about all of this stuff, and then that kind of suggests that it actually is the herd that is lost and never found. Um, but it's true, it's especially the experiences that I had in 2020 were really discouraging. Really discouraging. In fact, I was laying in bed, sick from COVID and thinking about all this stuff, and that's one of the things that really got me. The fact that so many people that I would have considered my tribe uh, voted for, Biden Harris. Not to say that they should vote for Trump, but um, you know, just the fact that there wasn't a revolt instead of any kind of complicity. you know, it's hard to swallow. It's hard to believe that we have gotten to the point where people are capable of the kind of selective perception, and you know, maintaining these extreme states of cognitive dissonance in order to, I guess, remain on autopilot and feel safe and comfortable and non-threatening to their peers. And you know, it is very discouraging. It is extremely discouraging. Um, but you know, I don't want to get too far down a rabbit hole that I can't return from. So let's go ahead and change gears and talk about some of the things that I've seen happen recently that are pretty mind blowing, and I think really obvious. And you know, like I said, I still have COVID. I'm still not totally 100% lucid, so bear with me as much as you can stand to. Um, Yeah, it is the level of alienation that I deal with is it's really it didn't bother me uh, for a long time. You know, it bothered me when I was a teenager, and then it bothered me again recently. But there was a big, huge gap in there where I didn't care. But it's just getting so extreme. I feel like sometimes I have like no allies almost, because I can't sit comfortably on the right or the left at all. You know, and it used to be that I at least had the left more or less congruent with most of my thinking, and now I'm just sort of feel like I'm just out to sea all by my lonesome. And you wonderful people out there in YouTube land. But I wanted to say something about this incident with this raid on Mar-a-Lago, Donald Trump's little tryst with the FBI there. I am of the opinion that it is complete and total theater. And here is the main reason is that if I'm a lifelong outlaw, right? And I'm sure some of you guys out there are at least, you know, peripherally aware of the rules, you know, to living that kind of life. And, you know, if the cops call me up or did call me up back in the day when I was living that kind of lifestyle, and they said, hey, we're going to raid you tomorrow. You just go through your house and you get, I mean, when I was a drug dealer in Washington, D.C. as a teenager, we literally had, people would tip us off that there was going to be a raid. Um, you know, so I mean, I've literally have done this before. We knew they were going to raid, get everything out of the house a couple of times. So, or I mean, I guess I would have done that if I had statute of limitations, whatever. But the point is that the FBI totally admitted that they contacted the Secret Service, which Donald Trump will have at his service for the rest of his life, having been a president. And they told him they were coming. Right? It's a joke. It's a fucking joke. And another thing that I find extremely suspicious about the situation is, you know, given the temperament of the demographic that supports Donald Trump, if you really were just trying to make him stronger than ever and to really fire up his supporters and shit, go raid Mar-a-Lago. You know what I mean? What is the FBI sitting around thinking, what is the exact thing that we should not do if we're trying to make sure that Donald Trump does not, you know what I mean? Like, it's just so goddamn stupid that people are falling for the theatrics that it's breaking my fucking mind. Like, I seriously, I can't anymore, you guys. I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to open up a wormhole the next time I drink ayahuasca and just ask those entities, just tell them, I don't know why this world keeps turning round and round, but I need it to stop and let me off right now. Uh, and just sort of slip in through the interdimensional cracks and get the fuck out of here, because I just can't take it anymore. Even the people that think they're thinking outside of the box are just in another box, and I really do. I really think that it's like they're trying to engineer a civil war in the United States. I've been through this before about how I think that Donald Trump is, you know, that Trump supporters are out of their fucking minds. And while it's true that Harris and Biden are absolutely disgusting, wretched, fucking, just yuck. It's what the things that they say about Donald Trump are also just completely fucking insane and stupid and unbearable. It's unbearable at this point. I cannot take it anymore. I really can't. Um, I really can't take it. Where was I going with this though? It was going to get worse. I mean, you think back to, you know, the kind of stuff that they said about this guy, that he's going to save them all from the pedophiles. Meanwhile, he's like making comments about banging his own 13-year-old daughter. You know, it's like he's not just a pedophile, he's an incestuous pedophile. Like, that guy's going to be the superhero that puts on the cape and saves us all of our children from the pedophiles, right? I mean, I swear to God, you guys, this theater, they do this stuff deliberately. It's not like they were just like, okay, let's find some schmuck that's gonna pretend to be a rebel and, you know, whatever his role is. They're like, let's find the most atrociously wretched, fucking slimy skis ball that we possibly can and get all the Christians to follow him. Fucking, you know, he's like crawling with porn stars and Melania's prostitute ass and making comments about banging his own daughter and stuff, and we got, you know, the whole entire Christian right going, let's, you know, this guy's gonna save our children from the pedophiles. Like, it's just too much. Okay, here's another element of this though, that to bring this back to the current dumb fuckery that is the global stage. You guys know about the Patriot Act? You know what that is? Right? Presidents are not immune to it. They're not. While he was in the White House, he had some immunity to a lot of things. But as soon as he walked down those steps, if they really wanted to get Donald Trump, if the persecution of Donald Trump was really real, if they were really after something in Mar-a-Lago, which they knew wasn't going to be there because they literally called him and warned him before they showed up, right? Like, but let's just pretend like we didn't notice that or something and try to go along with this as if it were real. He was accused of domestic terrorism, basically, of inciting an insurrection, which, by the way, for all of you liberals out there that are saying that, you know, it was January 6th was such a terrible thing, everyone should go to prison forever and what the fuck ever, it actually is constitutionally protected to overthrow the government if they have all of these characteristics that the current United States government definitely has. So all of you people that are screaming about how criminal and awful that was can just shut the hell up, because it was totally constitutional, totally legal. But yeah, so if they really wanted him, they would just charge him under the Patriot Act. He would get no trial, no phone call. They don't even have to file charges. All they would have to do is just take him away. No more Donald Trump. You know, we accuse him of domestic terrorism, arrest him under the Patriot Act, and then he's just gone, and no one ever has to think about him again. You know? And I know that there are Trump supporters out there that will do any kind of gymnastics in their head that they possibly can in order to ignore all of this obvious stuff, right? It's one of the most ridiculous goddamn things I've ever seen in my life. I've actually been told that the reason they didn't assassinate him is because he has time travel capabilities. So every time they, like, I guess, assassinate him in one timeline, it doesn't matter because he anticipated that in another timeline and jumped over that timeline like some kind of weird trans-temporal chess game, checkers, not even chess, just checkers. Don't want to give him too much credit. You know what I mean? Like, that's how far people will go to stop thinking that you need a goddamn hero. You know what I mean? First of all, just have some balls. There's no one in Washington that is on your side. No one. No one. Tulsi Gabbard, by the way, I just decided this week that she is also just a puppet. I did kind of support her and believe that she was at least sincere and trying to tell people the truth a little bit, and no longer think that. She is totally just another pawn in this theater. Kind of sad. But yeah, you guys have some balls. Forget about it. You do not have a savior in Washington, and not Donald Trump, not Joe Biden, not anyone ever. Just stop it. Just, you have to be your own leader. That's it. God damn it. But yeah, so what was I saying about this? The Patriot Act and just snagging Trump up and all that stuff. You know, he doesn't have superpowers. He's not going to just walk out into another dimension when they try to come get him. He's not just so powerful. I mean, you got to look at the cognitive dissonance that's required for right wingers to believe the stuff that they believe, right? That what was one of them? Sorry, my son is crying, and for some reason my partner won't shut him up, and so it's really difficult to concentrate. Um, okay, yeah. So, how about this one? If you fuck with the Clintons, you get hung, right? You get killed. Okay? So they have this belief in this like all-powerful deep state that's controlling everything. If you so much as insult one of their puppets like the Clintons, you just die. But somehow, and look at JFK, shot in the head, right? Went rogue, got shot in the head. Somehow Donald Trump is able to just go rogue, and they all hate him, and they want to see him, you know, in prison or whatever. Why didn't they just kill him? And then, you know, when you point that out to these people, they will just say the stupidest shit you've ever heard in your life for 30 minutes. Just basically making up things to try to explain why that wouldn't happen. Just no, he's one of them. It's one theater, one puppet master, one party. Stop with the gymnastics. You have no hero. You have no savior. We are on our own. That's it. If we, as individuals, can come together in unity, right? Elevate our consciousness and come together in unity, maybe we can save ourselves. But just, you know, stop falling for the charades, man. It's just such a dumb joke at this point. You know, and what kills me is just how obvious the holes in the plot are. You know, the people that believe all this ridiculous shit. You know, you could drive Saturn through the holes in the plot and still have plenty of room for all the other bullshit in the universe. So, yeah, I mean, obviously I'm in full-blown rant mode. That's not really even the worst of it either. I mean, what was another subject that was absolutely just, I mean, you guys know about, what's her name? Brittany Briner or something, this basketball star that got busted in Russia. Okay, look, no one should be in jail for marijuana anywhere on the planet, right? But that girl plays stupid games, gets stupid prizes, doesn't even begin to, you know, she's in a country where they have something called the Gulag. I'm pretty sure that's Russia, right? The Russian Gulag, like prisons in Siberia that are like, what, 400 miles away from anything that isn't so frozen that you can hit it with a tire iron and it'll explode, like tires on trucks. You can hit them with a tire iron and it'll just explode like glass. You know what I mean? It's an enemy, it's unfriendly country, at least. Just bringing a bunch of hash oil. You go to jail in the States for that. Like, I mean, what a moron. It's like unthinkable that someone would be that goddamn stupid. But stupidity is not malice. And no one should go to prison or jail unless they've done something malicious, in my opinion, right? Doesn't make sense. Not hurting anybody, none of your fucking business, right? So let's come from a place of compassion and forget about her tiny little brain. And Kamala Harris talking about how it's like a travesty of justice and all this shit that she's been put in jail for pot. There are 1,500 people still sitting in prison because of Kamala Harris for marijuana charges. Over 1,500. How is it that she is even on television saying something like that with her record. You know what I mean? Like these prosecutions weren't even that long ago. A lot of them. She also has gotten in trouble for keeping a lot of those people beyond their release date illegally because they were providing free labor for the state. It's just unfathomable to me that we have people in the United States that think of themselves as progressives and liberals that also will support someone like Kamala Harris. That is genuinely frightening. And I think, what really hit me when I was laying in bed the other night is that they're basically evil. And I hate to use that kind of divisive rhetoric. What we need is unity, and but it's inexcusable. It's inexcusable. It is the same kind of turning a blind eye to the evil behavior of these politicians, right? And in the case of Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, it's pretty extreme. Like they both really, I am not a law and order guy. I'm not all about crime and punishment. I think that we could, sentence way less people to prison and still have a safe society. We have tools to rehabilitate people. Psychedelics can work miracles. Timothy Leary proved that way back in the mid 60s. It's just a stupid joke. It's just money, right? But given the fact that I'm, pretty liberal when it comes to prison and, crime and punishment, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris deserve to be in prison for life, like without question, absolutely without question. Joe Biden probably for all of the lives that he destroyed with the 1994 crime bill and the Patriot Act and all of the other totally fascist, insane legislation that guy's had his hands in, he deserves to be put in prison for life. And then when he dies, reincarnated in prison. And that needs to happen like 300,000 times, and then he should be let out. You know what I mean? These people are so much worse than most Americans are willing to accept. To compare someone like Kamala Harris or Joe Biden to a Nazi officer is not out of line. It really isn't. And, I think most people know that the Germans that turned a blind eye at the very least to the Nazis, I think most people still judge them for that. Right? History is judging those people. Your average liberal in the United States is a decent person. Fundamentally. But the fact that they're willing to support people and just ignore the human rights abuses and the criminality of the things that they've done, they're culpable. And it's not like they didn't know. Tulsi Gabbard spelled it all out in the Democratic convention, said it right to their faces with the cameras on everywhere. It's like people just pretended like they didn't hear it. And I'm going after the left right now, but don't think that the right they do the same exact thing. They just ignore all of whatever they need to ignore in order to keep like liberals bad. Oh man, but here's the upside, you guys. I guess there are certain formulas in the universe, and one of those formulas is that when you're trying to create a third thing, you combine two things, and from those two things a third thing of a higher nature emerges. And so we cannot create that new third thing without the two things that we have that are the progenitors of that third thing, right? So, you know, I do see myself as a new breed. There, the lack of conditioning and indoctrination that I have is a new thing. Um, you know, there have been people here and there throughout history that missed it. It missed them somehow. But it does seem to me that as more and more fuel is added on this particular fire, more and more people that have broken free from the chains of cultural indoctrination, the best propaganda in the history of mankind, right? This third thing is emerging from left and right. And it is as it has to be, you know? I also take some solace. I was thinking about this earlier today. Another element of this, the LGBTQ gender thing, you know, you can't accuse me of being homophobic. You just can't. When I lived in gay DC, I slept in beds with my trans friends and gay friends, and you know, it's just completely stupid to accuse me of being. But apparently, from what I can tell, from looking out into the shitscape of social media, if you don't agree that there are 742 sexes, and you're not willing to, you know, abide by the rules, then you're committing violence against trans people. I saw a woman confronting a congressman, I guess, and he just asked her, if you define a woman as a person that can give birth, and she said, I would like to recognize that your line of questioning is violence against trans people. I believe that the absolute rule of the state can only be a function of the absolute sovereignty of the individual. And that is because until the individual has absolute sovereignty, we will never have circumstances where everyone is totally compliant. If that makes sense. I support everyone's right to do whatever they want. But people that are removing the genitals of people that are too young to they don't even know what sex is. This is criminal. And then when you make it taboo to acknowledge even evil, you know, people talk about how the Trump raid is setting a precedent. You want to talk about precedent. That we're going to restrict the speech of people that are protesting acts of sexual mutilation against children, many of whom have mentally ill parents that have manipulated their children in order to I've seen parents doing this, you know, to get views, pushing their kids to have gender dysphoria so that they can become popular on TikTok and get, you know, virtue signaling. And I mean, it's really bad. But here's the upside. Fast forward a bunch, because I could keep going on this subject, get myself canceled everywhere for no reason, because what I'm saying is absolutely fair and true. No, wait, let's keep going with this. There's two levels of this that make it completely intolerable. When you forget about mandating, when you create a sort of cultural norm where people are compelled to deny objective reality, something like biology. You're setting a precedent, a cultural precedent. Not only that free speech is not important and that it can be overruled and overridden, but this now can be transferred to other areas, other subjects. And I realize that the people on the ground that are supporting these completely fucking insane narratives basically are well-meaning, and they just don't understand what they're doing. That ultimately, these wedge issues, which is what they are, don't get me wrong, and in case you're not familiar with the term, wedge issue is used to divide the populace, right? So we have all these huge, actually valid problems in the world that affect everyone, and somehow we have the media getting us to focus on these weird, fringe kind of issues, like the one I'm talking about, as if they're like the central thing that's happening in the world, which is a little bit crazy. Okay, so you have all that stuff. None of it's good. But then you also are setting another precedent where people are not even allowed to speak about transgressions against children. I mean, I heard Jordan Peterson talking about this, and he was using words like butchering children. And I don't think that language is too strong. Speaking of precedent, I just want to mention while I'm thinking about it that people are talking about how allowing the Department of Justice to go and raid Donald Trump is setting a precedent that denies all of our rights and whatever. It's bullshit. The precedent was set with Nixon for this a long time ago. This is not new, and it has not. It's just drop that line of reasoning because it's just complete nonsense. If you're suspected of domestic terrorism, they're accusing you of it, they can raid your shit. That's not. I don't understand what people are talking about there. It's just stupid. But yeah, so I mean, I hope I did a good job of explaining, these issues are not even necessarily about the actual issues. BLM was another thing along these lines, where ostensibly people are trying to do something good. They're fighting racism. They're fighting for equality. They are standing up for civil rights. But objective and further examination of the protocols and methods being employed to those ends increases racism, sets civil rights back, increases racial tensions. You know what I mean? Gotta wise up, people. Gotta wise up. And the thing that is so brilliant about the structure of these wedge issues is that they are engineering, the social engineering is such that the effect is dual, right? So it has this sort of damaging effect on the agenda of the left that the elites don't like, and then it also has this sort of like it affects the right in such a way that their worst qualities are also brought to the forefront. And so you have this like double whammy of super sophisticated, brilliant propaganda that is just making a fucking shitstorm out of the cultural and political landscape in the United States. It's everything contains its contradiction, and it is truly the most brilliant stupidity that I couldn't have conceived of it. You know, just I mean, I was really having a hard time expressing this stuff. I hope that it was coherent enough that something of value was conveyed. Um, I'm still super sick from COVID, although, you know, oh, that was another one, man. I just discovered that, I guess a couple months ago, I don't know how I missed this. I don't pay much attention to them really, but, Gates actually said that it's, you know, that, I'm careful, I need to try to not to even say the word, was not as deadly as they had thought. I don't know, where does this come from? Like, they were just thinking stuff now? I thought this was all hard data and science and facts. Like, what do you mean you thought? Deadly, you don't, like, trust the science, I thought, right? So you guys just, like, you were just thinking stuff? I don't understand. It's like 2022. Our technology is how advanced? Like, have we not, you know, consensus and statistics? We don't have that down yet. I mean, I'm confused. I don't understand. It's less deadly than we thought, comparable to a flu. Now, when I was looking at the numbers and saying all that back in 2020, I remember being called an idiot, a moron, evil. You know, my channel got demonetized. My Facebook page was deleted. There are still people that won't speak to me. I was right. What the fuck? And then what else did he say? He said it's much less deadly than we thought, comparable to the flu, and it's mostly a concern for elderly people. You know, excuse me if I'm mistaken somehow, but I'm pretty sure we have lived with those type of viruses on this planet as just, you know, a potential hazard of being one of the perils of being in 3D forever, right? Without locking down the entire planet and, you know, all the other shit that came with that. Am I wrong? Or what? Oh man. So, and I mean, you know, I'm open to other questions, topics, whatever you guys want to throw something at me. I basically just jumped on tonight because I got a head full of ideas that are driving me insane. You know, it's just so goddamn crazy to watch all of this go down. I am so disappointed in the left too, man. I mean, 20 years ago, they were moving in a totally sensible direction. There was almost nothing that most people would take issue with, you know, in like 2000 on the left. Like, it seemed like people were really starting to understand what psychedelics were actually for again. It's not like that didn't already happen once in the 60s, but, you know, with a more sophisticated relationship, a deeper understanding, right? It just looked like we were totally outfitted, prepared, you know, that we had a sophisticated enough revolution boiling that I thought we would just roll right over them, you know. And I did, you know, even in my most optimistic moments, I thought, you know, they're pretty damn sophisticated. The people that seek to discourage the evolution of consciousness, they're not going to just get out of the way and let it happen. So I wasn't entirely naive, but I did expect better from my generation. And the people that were part of this movement that I guess just got hit on the head with a stick and forgot what it was doing or something. I'm not really sure exactly how that happens. Collective amnesia is apparently something that we've had all throughout history. Fernando actually just sent me a quote from Oscar Wilde, was it? It was in Spanish. You remember, Fernando? But it was basically about this, that, you know, politics is the road for the people with no principles to direct the people with no memory. So, yeah. Uh, you know, and I hate to be redundant on this channel. I'm actually kind of proud of the fact that I've made like 400 videos or something without being very repetitive. Even though a lot of it's just off the top of my head. I realized that a few weeks ago that, you know, I've done a fair job of not repeating myself too much. That many videos, I'm gonna run out eventually, you would think, but so far so good. By the way, we are going to get back into metaphysics as soon as I have the cognitive capacity to navigate. Because what's happening is that where my metaphysics is at right at this juncture, I guess, after all these years, and you know, it's pretty technical, and it's really deeply intertwined with the natural sciences, and so I'm kind of concerned that it's going to be too tedious. But we're gonna talk a little bit about centripetal and centrifugal forces, and how they give rise to everything. If you guys have followed my channel for a while, you know I kind of got deep into this whole idea about how electromagnetism and consciousness, the relationship there, and why it's such an important bit of knowledge to have. And even though I haven't been talking about it on the channel a lot, I've still been weaving all of that stuff together, and I am coming up with this tapestry of it's a metaphysical tapestry of surprising coherence and power. Um, so that's really encouraging. I hope it's not for nothing. The world can just, you know, keep itself from exploding all the way for another few years. I'll have a complete system, a complete model. Um, all right, you guys have anything for me to talk about? What I was saying, I guess, is that we are going to get back into metaphysics at some point. I just tonight I felt like all I really have the space for in my head is ranting, and I didn't even rant about all of it. There's plenty more that is just it's sad, you know, because it's such a waste of human potential, and it would be so easy to sort of redirect the trajectory of, you know, at least uh, the pathos of humanity. That's not really the right word, but the you know, the consciousness. It's really not that tremendous of a shift between the trajectory that we're on and a correct trajectory. It's relatively minute and fairly simple. And I think, as evidence that what I'm saying is true, all you have to do is look at the wedge issues, how ridiculous, how far they're having to reach and stretch to come up with things to distract people with, the extent of the censorship. You know, it's it's necessary because it is such a minuscule shift that is required to at least irrevocably send the development of human consciousness in another direction. Um, you know, I really struggle to understand why the dominator culture, puppet masters, the overlords, why it is that they feel compelled, even because they could still be wealthy. You know what I mean? Like, to make this shift happen, we don't need to. We don't. You know what I mean? It's not a move towards abject communism or something. It's not. It doesn't mean that they have to give up all of their wealth, and maybe some of it, but it just doesn't make any sense. They're not even clinging to anything that matters. Um, that's always been the most baffling thing of all to me. Like the other day, I saw Dave Chappelle. What's going on, Misty? I saw Dave Chappelle on, oh, I don't know where, it doesn't matter, but he was talking about how, if you don't like the train, to get off the train, and he's like, I'm the one that left $50 million on the train. Who cares? So what? The dude was already worth, $100 million. When you have $100 million, it's not like laudable to pass up $50 million. That you have to, be a piece of shit to get. Like, that's not. It's just baffling that people actually think like that. And if you look in the comment section of that video, there's tons of people that are just like, wow, it's so amazing that for his principles, he's already rich. Who cares? You know what I mean? I don't understand. I really do not understand. I do not understand. Who cares that he left $50 million on the train? He already had 100. So what? Didn't do anything. Doesn't matter. He's unbelievably rich either way. Why is that? Like, and I've noticed that even like middle of the road, like liberals will say, oh, well, that's an awful lot of money, as if they do understand somehow. I'm not trying to be anything when I say that. I literally do not understand it. Like, I cannot fathom why, if you are already, you can have whatever car you want, you can have a couple of houses in your favorite places in the world, and you can live for the rest of your life and still leave some shit for your kids. What the fuck is wrong with you blowing people up and shit? You know what I mean? For more. Like, what is this? What is it? I don't get it. Or even patting yourself on the back for walking away from $50 million when you already have $100 million. I mean, can someone explain this shit to me? Yeah, I noticed that Woodstock '99 has been in the news again, or whatever. People are talking about it. I'm not sure why. I feel like Woodstock '99 was sort of on the cusp of, the movement that I was a part of when I was like 21 years old. And it wasn't like a defined movement. It was more of a general gestalt or something. That didn't really pick up momentum until like 2001 or so. What happened is totally beyond me. I don't know what happened. I don't understand what happened. I don't know where it went. I don't know how everyone's brains melted. Those people, they're all, roughly my age now. They would have been cheering people taking over the Capitol building in 2001, and dragging the government out by their short hairs. They would have been all for it. I also think that they would have been sensible enough that they would have commended any president that had managed to be the only one that hadn't gotten us into a war in however many presidencies it had been, you know. Um, I really don't understand how they got a hold of the minds of my generation the way that they did, because I don't feel like I was really that unusual in a lot of my thinking back then, but I sure do have a hard time finding more of me now, you know, or you know what I mean? It's weird that they all like went back to sleep, or they got scared, or I don't know, you know. I can imagine that the 60s generation probably felt a lot like I do, you know. And I can remember being like a young hippie in my early 20s and running into all of these older hippies in their 60s and 70s, and they seemed so jaded, and I didn't understand what the fuck their problem was, you know. It's like, man, you guys, if it wasn't for you, you know how goddamn lame a whole world would be? I mean, if it wasn't for the influence of psychedelics in the 1960s, I think we can assume that the 1950s just would have continued as they were, you know, just ignorant, white bread, racist, fucking boring, bland, leave it to beaver, whitewash, you know what I mean? It's just absolute goddamn hell on earth. Um, you know, and I always felt like should have felt like, you know, they didn't win completely yet, but at least they put something in motion that had some color and some hope and some potential, and you know, had resulted in all sorts of amazing offshoots. But now it's a little easier for me to understand, you know, that we've gotten so close so many times to turning the page in the right direction once and for all, and then somehow they swallow up just enough people that it doesn't quite manage to happen. What do you do? Keep on trucking. We have better tools, you know. Um, I'm excited to go back to the United States. I feel like maybe there's more happening underground that I'm aware of. I wouldn't know. I'm in the jungle. Um, there are no gringos around at all right now here. I mean, you know, I'm totally disconnected with, I don't have friends and family in the United States. You know, I have no idea. There could be some meaningful movements gathering steam that are getting ignored on social media and censored, and we would never know. So I'm really feeling almost an obligation to go back where I can have a little bit more direct influence. Um, I mean, you know, I'm not really interested in just surviving the apocalypse or something. I don't care at all about that. Um, I'm not really trying to hide out in the jungle and just like whatever, you know. It doesn't make any sense to me. I would rather be in the thick of it. I think, you know, of course, I say that until something goes wrong and it turns out to be a mistake. But you know, that's my plan. I think, is to get back where I can make music. You know, I know that vibrating at people is the best way really to affect their consciousness without like I can't say any. I don't. You know what I mean? You don't have to say anything. Words are not necessary. Nonverbal communication is music is how to do that. And you know, I've gotten remarkable feedback from people in audiences. I honestly, deserting that part of my life and fleeing to South America it blows my mind that I ever did that in the first place, that I let 5 years go by. You know, but whatever. I don't care if I'm old and crusty. I'm still going to go back and try to make it happen. And the difficulty with this channel is that, you know, I have to get people to click, and then I have to get them to tolerate hearing things that make them uncomfortable, maybe, or that they outright disagree. You know what I mean? Like, it's not as efficacious of a medium as the kind of nonverbal communication that I feel like I can do in a club or theater, or hopefully a football stadium at some point. So that's where all of my energy and will is going at the current juncture. Definitely my focus to go back. Thank all of you guys that have supported us, kept us going all this time. Please hit the like button, share, subscribe, support us on Patreon. Tomorrow I'm going to do the first secret stream in a while because I've had COVID and I haven't been able to. It's going to be on one of Crowley's old books on magic, one of the chapters. We're going to get deep into that stuff. I am still working on the course. I just, it was a terrible time to get COVID. I had so much, God damn Amazon bugs, positive momentum going. It was just, man, Satan it translates in Hebrew into the stumbling block. And that's like, COVID was like Satan for me right now, the adversary, the stumbling block. But so what do? Grab a bull by the horns and keep going, kick it in the nuts, throw it underneath you so you got to ride. I mean, constrain the demon to your services. Yeah, so anyways, secret stream tomorrow. We are filling up for the retreats. We are only doing September and October, so if you want to come and learn about Hermetic magic and drink ayahuasca and try other plant medicines and run around in the jungle with me, just being a lunatic, swinging on vines and whatnot, you can do that. Just send a message to email in the description and come on down. Otherwise, I will see you guys at some theaters in the States. Hopefully keep your ears and eyes out for IllumiGnostic. The name of the band will remain the same. The bass player's still down as far as I know. So that'll be a relief. The guy that has my guitar actually in the States sent me a picture of it the other day, and man, was that a hard thing to look at. Because I did, for those of you that don't know, I just walked away from everything, and yeah, dude still has my guitar, which is, it'll be crazy to be reunited with it after 5 years. And hopefully make my way back to a stage near you. So I guess that's it, you guys. I appreciate all of you very much, and I'm gonna eat some dinner and go to bed. And then some of you guys who are patrons, I will see you tomorrow for the secret stream. It's $10 and up gains access to the secret streams. Yep. So see you again soon.